DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
It's time for Tuesday Night Live Chat with Brian S. Red and John Young. Should be live. Everything should be coming to, and I see my window is not formatted right. So good evening, everyone. While we get this scene fixed. Tonight we're going to be coming to you live at a lot of different channels across the interweb. And I've got, of course, let's see, Brian and Jay. Good evening, gentlemen.
How are you?
Hi, John.
Doing well. Thanks for getting together here tonight, guys, as we're getting towards the end of our season.
Yes.
Yeah.
The year has gone by us already. Can you believe it?
It has moved along quickly, and
tonight, 2 decades down.
Yeah. You're making me feel older now, Jay.
Yeah,
it's been a very interesting end of the year because, as many of you know, Jay and I came out as bi-weekly here on the Shucky News. So
I was like, why doesn't he tell me these things when we go to bed at night? I just don't understand. Damn it.
How did this work? I don't understand. No.
Man, what a
that was off the hat. So.
Yeah, that was
yeah.
I see what you did there. So today what I wanted to kind of start out talking about a little bit, guys, is as we're getting to the end of the year, and we're not only at the end of the decade, but you guys you did music and such and discussed some of that in the past show. But I wanted to kind of look back at this past year. Are there going to be things from this past year that are going to be influencing us maybe as an industry as we go into 2020? Things that we're going to look back and say, whoa, that was a big thing that happened in this particular year.
I don't think musically. I think it's oftentimes you get the quick hits. We've seen that over time. And I won't say they're one-hit wonders, but a lot of artists break out very quickly and then kind of dissipate. And I think every year has that. This year, I think it's Lizzo, in that came on strong. I'm hoping there's a follow-up. A few years ago, Adele was all the talk. I don't think I've played one Adele song this year. So I think every year musically has that. Equipment-wise, I don't know that anything really groundbreaking showed up. There were other ways to do things. Pro X came out with stands that you could argue could replace truss. We're still doing truss. We're still doing movers. We're still doing facades. I mean, the cold sparklers, I saw them at NAMM when they broke a few years ago and thought, these will be big in certain areas, certain states, certain functions. But there's a fear factor of older people seeing that. There was a tragic fire based on those type of effects that were actual pyro in Rhode Island years ago at the Station nightclub. 109 people, I believe, died. So, moving us into interior fireworks, I don't think is a direction. I mean, Brian and I have had this talk a little bit with you, John. I think we're kind of stagnant right now, if you want the truth. I think there's enough inexpensive gear for new DJs to get in at a lower price point. Back in the day, it was a $5,000 investment. Now, $900 gets you a couple speakers, a controller, you have a laptop, some music. I think this was a year that was just kind of a wash in the way of the DJ. What do you think, Brian?
I think that what this year has shown me is pretty much everything that I started doing the previous year is a really good way forward. I didn't really do much new this year that I can think of. I mean, a few things maybe, just some very subtle things, but for the most part, in 2018, I started to use a different lighting system halfway through, and then I also started using that battery-powered array for ceremonies and things, and that's the way to go, I think, for me. And one thing that's interesting that I just happened today, and it was so my DJ liability insurance ran out.
Sure.
And I have a gig that I'm doing this Saturday. So I had to go and, you got to reapply when you get that stuff. So I'm filling out all of the questions that they have before, they give you a quote. And, there's several. Do you have dancers or motivators? Do you have, where's some of the other questions? Do you play events over 10,000 people? There were several different questions. One of the questions was, do you offer lighting with trussing?
Yeah.
And this was the first time I was able to answer no, because I don't offer lighting with trussing anymore.
Sure.
Right.
And that's new. I always had something, or there was something on a stick, be it a combination light or whatever. I'm not doing that anymore. Mm-hmm. There's nothing on a truss. It's either on my table or it's on the ground. So that's pretty new. And when you look at most other people's setups, they're still using truss with lights, or they're using poles or something. And I've gone a different route. It's not only saved me time, but it's changed the way that I insure myself.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be $25 a year, might not be this huge, massive savings, but that's changed. That's a different thing than it used to be. The first time I was able to say no to that question, because that's where I'm at.
Well, it's interesting because John mentioned the decade going by, and you and I have been friends since 2008, July 2008 to be specific, at Chicagoland, Mobile Beat, when that was there. I didn't have a lot of acquaintance DJs that were doing trussing then.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly didn't have any DJs I knew with movers. So I would say, if nothing else, this last decade has introduced this massive production. It used to be we were in the corner quietly on a table with a podium, 19-inch stand.
Well, there's a couple things that I'll say in response to that. I think that most DJs in 2008 they may not have been using big, production truss, but they were indeed using tripods and T-bars.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, I think, what they're talking about when they say truss. None of my lights are floating up in the air. I'm not doing the monogram thing. I'm not doing the laser thing. I'm not doing anything right now that would require me to set up a pole and run a light up there. I don't need to.
They're looking for the liability aspect.
Yeah.
And
well, I know they are, but but I'm just saying it was interesting. I didn't make that decision because of a liability asset. I made that decision to not run it because I didn't need to. I thought it was a better effect. It was easier to set up, and overall, just a win-win. I didn't, today, just applying for that liability insurance was just kind of an oddball thing that, I thought, that's interesting. I don't have to check yes to that box anymore.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Well, you and I had the light talks about this with, do you put lights on the pole? I'm going to utilize something you did probably 5 years ago. For 2020, I've gone to the Chabet the Chabet Wash Effects 2. I think they're amazing. I'm going to hook them up with a program, but I'm going to do what you did and mount 2 of them on top of speakers.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes above the crowd to wash the ceiling.
Sure.
And it makes me laugh. I'm going right back to what I did 25 years ago, where I had 60, par 64 cans with gels, and you pushed light on people and washed them. And you and I have had this discussion ad nauseum about it ultimately comes down to washing the crowd. If you don't have fog, I think washing is the only way to go.
Do it. Yeah.
Well, projection or wash effects.
Yeah. John, what's your take on this?
Well, before we talk lighting, I wanted to jump back because Brian mentioned liability insurance, and that's actually been one of the things that has changed in our industry this past year. A lot of you, for years, we looked at getting insurance through the ADJA or NAME, were the two main resources for insurance. You would go and you pay your $200, whatever it was a year. You had your liability insurance. 2019 saw the real growth of the single weekend event insurance within a DJ industry, or the buying it by the month insurance. So
Really?
if I only am doing shows for the 3 summer months and I'm not doing shows the rest of the year, I can buy
Even the
liability.
annual, yeah.
I don't have to do annual anymore.
Right.
And that's been
What's it cost monthly, John?
right now, one of the companies that has been soliciting to be part of the DJNTV world is they're offering a basic liability, which is I think the $1 million for $16 a month. So when you do the math, it's a little bit more, or it's pretty much right about the same thing. But the idea that they're feeling is that at $16 a month, people will just put it on their credit card and forget about it. And
But
just
what
always
happens? Well, it's that subscription base, which
everybody's out there.
everyone is going to, because in the long run, they get you for more money. But my concern becomes, you should be able to represent yourself professionally with insurance. What happens to the summer DJ that gets a call in December and says, hey, we've got 100 people coming to the VFW next week. We need a DJ, and we'd like you to do it, or it's that weekend. We'll give you $1,000. And the guy goes, oh, yeah, we need your insurance.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what you're paying, Brian, and I'll go into.
I think it was 208.
Yeah,
I'm around 58. Yeah. So under 300. Again, when you break this down, you're talking. I consider to be minimal cost.
for sure.
When you look at the ramifications of what could happen and what that would cost you as a business.
It's one of those things that, I feel like, and I've talked about it in great length, I feel, on my channel, where when you're coming up with a business plan, it's just another one of those things that you wrap into your annual expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Along with your website, your phone, accumulated over the course of 12 months, your internet, all of that stuff kind of gets wrapped up into that annual cost divided by the average number of events you do per year. And there you go. But yeah, it was, one of those things that I just kind of, I let it lapse. I wasn't thinking about it. And the reason I wasn't thinking about it was because so many of my events this last year have been agency gigs. So I'm covered under that blanket, so I didn't have to worry about it.
Sure.
So anyway, it's handled, and I'll get confirmation on it tomorrow or whatever. But yeah, that was just interesting to me. But Jay, going back to what you were saying, and you probably don't even remember, and I can't rewind this conversation because we haven't saved it yet. But you said something about gear this year that was interesting initially when you were first going off on your first rant of the broadcast here.
That was the one where
that's innovation.
There really wasn't anything.
Lack of innovation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that a little bit.
It's funny. Technology always gets cheaper as it gets better. Like the cost of a laptop today is much less than it was 20 years ago.
Sure.
And that's traditionally the way it goes. They get better, bigger, faster, but they get cheaper. It's very Daft Punk. Had to throw that in, John.
I see that.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm as excited about the future as I am about the new Huey Lewis and the News album that's been announced today. So again, 2.5.
Yesterday.
Wow.
Oh, whatever. Well,
you didn't see that?
Jay's winning brownie points here tonight.
Hey, the boss needs to, I got to collect this check. So
right.
I just think it's funny. You look at the DJ world, and we've gone through phases of, it's the Craigslist guy, or it's the secretary's cousin's a DJ. But really nowadays, to become a DJ is a very inexpensive journey. Between online streaming, between inexpensive stolen music or pools or whatever, along with a cheap controller, a laptop, a couple of speakers, I would say you could probably put a system together for under $1,000 with cables.
Sure. Yeah. Did either one of you happen to see the video that I put up the other day about DJ equipment?
Of course I did.
The one where you're talking about will DJs pay for?
Yeah.
Well, the one I was kind of talking about, non-pro consumer electronics versus professional install / production equipment.
Right.
Essentially, in that video, what I was saying is, I don't believe, when we talk about what DJs are willing to pay for, I don't believe that DJs are particularly always looking for the least expensive thing. There's a demographic out there for that.
Yeah.
And they're the beginners. So that does exist. I'm not suggesting it doesn't. But I think a lot of DJs out there really want quality things.
Oh, I agree.
But the problem is, when it comes to mobile DJs, there's not a big market for what I would consider professional mobile DJ equipment. It's either non-professional consumer electronics, so the real entry-level stuff that really isn't really made to go on the road,
right?
Or it's stuff that really should belong in a club or a house of worship or install or other install or production. Mobile DJs in the middle. And I think the way a lot of these companies who are producing equipment, the way they look at it is, not all of them, but a lot of them, well, we're not going to worry about mobile DJ too much. They're either going to step down into consumer electronics or they're going to step up into professional install stuff. So let's not worry about what they particularly need in this real narrow margin. I think that's a mistake.
It sounds like
I do too.
A huge mistake.
It sounds like something.
I think a lot of companies purposely try to push the consumer up the ladder or down.
John, you were saying?
It sounded like something you were describing the early 80s. Almost to a T.
It's like that.
I mean, that's exactly how I remembered, when we went looking for our first things. And as you were describing that, Brian, I was actually, it's interesting to watch how some companies have evolved and have gone and they have that lower end gear, and some companies are just, the whole company has gone to that.
Right. And
it's like that middle ground area that a good piece of gear that's not going to break the bank. It may not have all the bells and whistles of the higher end gear. It's just that area seems to be drying up in many, especially in the lighting world, is one I'm thinking specifically of.
Well, with things like audio controllers, for instance, and I'm not picking on anybody here, including present company, but what's interesting is you'll have a piece of equipment that somebody in their college dorm can step into because they're interested in DJing and mixing.
Right.
So they can buy it relatively inexpensive. And it's incorporating a lot of the features that are really built for the pro DJ, like sample pads and loops and pitches and what, just things that are not expensive to incorporate into, this, price point, maybe under $200 piece of equipment.
Mm-hmm. Right. And
then you have the club stuff, right, where it has all of the bells and whistles and it's got really good build quality, and sometimes your affluent college student might step into this pro gear piece that belongs in a club. They don't really have any business with it, but they do buy it, right? So you've got these two things. You've got the amateur aspiring to be the club guy, and then you've got, of course, just the club guy who's living in club world, but the third guy is being ignored. And the reason the third guy is being ignored is he can step down into the thing that the college dorm guy has, or he or she could step up into the professional equipment, but neither the pro nor the amateur addresses the issues of the mobile DJ. Case in point, microphone inputs. Neither the pro or the non-pro has this. We need it. We don't have it. And to incorporate it, you need a separate mic mixer. And that's unfortunate. And that's what I'm talking about. That's that narrow margin, right? That we seem to be in as mobile guys that's not really being addressed by, I shouldn't say anyone, because some are, right? I
think we've learned, if nothing else, that if you forget the stories of history, they repeat themselves. And I won't name companies, but it's interesting to me now to see a lot of excitement from the new generation of DJs going, wow, this controller has a 3-band EQ on the mic. Really? And a zone output. Wow. I loved it when the DJM 5000 had that in 2009.
Right.
No one caught it.
Right. It was a beautiful piece, by the way.
It was. I still think it's one of the best mixers I've ever used. And it had zero effects.
Well, it did have one weird effect. It had, well, what did it have? The sound maximizer on it?
Yeah, it had the sound maximizer and then the 4 effects on the vocal. But it reminded
the vocal effects had the delay on it. That was annoying. Right.
But
otherwise, it was cool.
Yeah, it reminded me of the 90s on the Rane MP44Z, which was the bulletproof every club, or the 2016 where you were like, oh, it's rotary? Oh, that's kind of cool. Like,
yeah, and that goes back to...
But it was nuts and bolts DJing. They don't... That's gone, Brian. Do you remember when the thing in the late 90s, early 2000s, and John, jump in on this too. I used to buy gear for a yacht company, and I would get, everything under the sun. Newmark, Denon, Pioneer, whatever I could get my hands on. Mm-hmm. And there would be times I would be faced with that decision of, this is a $200 mixer with nothing, or this one has a phaser, a laser, a siren, and it's $250. I'm going to get that because my guys are going to love that.
Right. And whether they do or not.
Yeah. But you move forward and, I think we're always going to kind of be that guy outside of the cool circle. How many times have we had this discussion of, hey, that guy headlines at that cool club in Milwaukee. Really? Yeah, he gets $300 a night, but everyone knows him and he's cool, and you're doing a $1,500 wedding and nobody knows who you are.
Right.
And I think because you're either DJing or you're a wedding entertainer. If you're a DJ, a 3-band EQ mic's important. I mean, that new XDJ XZ has a 3-band EQ on the master out.
Well, to facilitate a wedding, you need that. I think you can still DJ a wedding and be a DJ, but to actually facilitate it where you're handing a microphone to others, it's nice to have a clean microphone input.
Yeah. Right. But
John, you were saying.
No, I just agree. You're good.
I was just going to say, the question becomes, Brian, not why do you need this? How many people realize you need it?
John, I was going to ask you, with what I'm talking about here, and I don't know if you saw the video or not. And even if you did, I don't know if my goofy brain damaged head was able to actually articulate my point very well. Because I question my sanity sometimes when I look in the comment section. But do you feel like there's anything out there, since you haven't seen the video, it'd be interesting to hear your response, that actually does address the needs and wants of us as mobile DJs? As far as equipment goes,
this is actually an interesting thing, and I did not see the video. I watched a couple of other ones, thinking might go those directions as I was trying to catch up. But anyway, it was interesting that Michael and I were actually having this conversation, talking about some of the pieces of gear that were released this year and how they were so hot and we were so excited about them, and how they really didn't fit a demographic at all.
Right.
That this cool thing came out and people were like, this is the neatest thing ever. It's like having I don't want to go, we're not going to mention names and such.
No.
But it was this really neat concept, and it just didn't have a home. It didn't work for this group of people, and it certainly didn't work for mobile DJs in our capacity that are taking requests, playing, a variety of different songs and things every night because depending upon our dance floor.
Sure.
So,
can you give a rough, without saying names, John? Can you give just like, what was it? A controller, a mixer? Was it like what didn't it do? I'm curious.
It just didn't. It was one of the controllers out there, and it was a great. The idea was a great thing, and it looked like it would be so cool. And as the year progressed, it's kind of like having a new car that comes out and everyone's excited about the technology, but because of a software glitch, the car never was able. No one could really use the car. It's always it's always in the shop, and it wasn't because it was in the shop, but it was a neat thing. The concept was cool, but it didn't. In reality, the pieces weren't all there to make it so it could become a functional tool.
Maybe it was like an Edsel, where really it was a good car, but it was real bold, and the public just didn't receive it very well.
See, and even that, though, I mean, there's been a few pieces of gear that came out. I mean, there was a speaker that recently was introduced, and people were like, "Oh my God, that is so great!" And it was at a different price point than a similar speaker, and people were like, "This is so awesome." Turns out that there was a flaw in the speaker and such that meant that none of them functioned.
Well, speaking of speakers, John, I believe that this decade, because this isn't just the end of 2019, this is the end of the decade.
Yep.
This is we're switching over to the I don't know if they're roaring 20s or they're sleepy 20s. I don't know what they'll be, but I think this decade we've done incredibly well with speakers for us. I think they've hit the mark, and I don't know that it was necessarily built for us, but they work well for us because there's lightweight, Class D powered speakers and lightweight cabinets that I feel work very well for a variety of applications, whether you're doing a small event, a real small event, like in someone's home event, or you're doing a big school gymnasium or whatever. There's a speaker out there that works well.
And I think this is actually the first decade that there was actually a speaker, I think, designed for the mobile DJ specifically, because we look back, when Bose came out with their original, their cylindrical system,
T1,
that was designed for live music. And
jazz musicians, whatever. Yeah, of course. Bose has always made for
and
that.
they made that. And then, of course, the DJs found it. I think the very first, when you saw FBT, you see the Evolve 50, and you see some of these companies who've come out with those array systems. Some of these companies, it was designed for us to a point.
Mike Dussault, I mean, he was thinking about us when he came up with the concept for the Evolve 50.
Yeah.
He was thinking specifically of mobile DJs. But you could use, a band could use it.
True.
No problem.
But I think those were really the first speakers that I would say are, especially in the array world. But I even would go back to most of the speakers, if you look in the early 2000s, most of them were speakers that a band would use somewhere.
Yeah.
Is how many times
exactly.
How many times did we?
Which is a band can still use these speakers, but they work well for us. So I think there's really nothing that I'm desiring about speakers. I think it's all out there. The tech is out there. It's being applied well. So for us,
I remember using powered speakers. I got my first powered speakers in 1997. I got DAS 15A active 200 watt with an amp built in, as that it would be an easier approach in a car, not a truck.
Right.
To carry speakers, not amps, that. And at the time, the only choices I had were DAS, Mackie, TV, and Yamaha.
Well, you had Liberty Bell too. Was it Anchor who makes those?
I didn't know of those. They weren't in the stores I was shopping. They had 4 choices. And everyone in my market had Mackie, what is it, SRM 450s?
450s were everywhere, yeah.
Yeah. So I purposely got DAS because in my head I said, well, they sounded better to me. Mm-hmm. They were like $100 more. And if I had something different, I could expose that.
Yeah.
As, well, I use a different sound because if everybody on your block is doing the same thing, it's sometimes better to do something different.
I think what we have here is this really bizarre thing now where I'm not suggesting that anybody invents a particle separator here. All I'm asking or expecting anyone to do is use applied science to build good stuff. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Just take all the stuff that's already out there and apply it to a product that works. If that makes any sense to you.
I think it does, and it would be a great thing. The problem we have is that you've got companies out there who take the look and take maybe a little of the feel, and then they try to under produce the device, or they try to under engineer it and make it look the same, cut corners, but yet it looks exactly the same. And
use the less expensive technology instead of using a Wi-Fi or a router kind of thing. Let's just go Bluetooth with it.
And even Bluetooth, I'm okay with some of that technology because we were using it in some home tech, and it does a wonderful job. It's we can get away, we can build this box, and we see this at NAMM with some of the knockoff companies that are out there. They build a box that looks exactly like the hottest line of speakers out there, whatever that would be, and they've got crap in the back as far as the components inside it. You know that it's not going to last very long. It's going to either overheat or something, what have you. And that's probably one of my biggest frustrations with the gear that we see out there, is that it isn't like we're racing to a higher quality across the board. Some companies have been putting some time and effort into building that, and they're obviously more expensive speakers. But then we get this whole mid to low ground that is throwing in whatever they can for parts, and it will work.
But it's trying to make a buck, man.
And it's that disposable. I mean, I've done videos on some of these speakers as disposable speakers, and people laugh about that. But it's like, how else would you explain something that it might work for a month, 2 months, 6 months? Yes, it has a 2-year warranty or whatever it is, but realistically, if anybody's using it, it will never last that long.
There's an audio company out there that doesn't exist anymore, and I won't mention who it is or who owns it, but they came out with a speaker a few years ago, and it was right before they folded. And they asked me what I thought of it. And it was a powered speaker with a built-in microphone, and it had LEDs in the woofer. I said, what do you think of it? What do you think? I said, I love it. I think you should call it the swap meet, because it looked like something you'd see like next to the chickens and the rabbits and the, whatever, car polish you get at the flea market. It just didn't look like professional anything. It looked like an impulse buy junky thing you'd see at a swap meet at the drive-in on off season.
I got to interrupt here for a second, because it just dawned on me. I think we've also, and this goes to John and Brian, we're at a time now where things have changed with manufacturing and reputations. And what I mean by that is this, and I'll give you a quick story. When I switched from DAS to Yamaha 15-inch powered speakers, I still have one in the garage right now. I blew a woofer on one 9 years into using them for every gig. So that's...
Right. Wow. You got your money out of them.
For 9 years. Right. I mean, ridiculous amounts of usage.
Yeah. Good ROI.
And I blew one, and I said, I got to. So I remember looking at a company that has 3 letters that starts with a Q, but I don't want to say their name.
Yeah.
And then another company that starts with 3 letters, and it starts with a J. And I mentioned to somebody, I'm comparing this speaker and this speaker. And before I could ask the question, they said, get the JBL. People have heard of that. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, the bride's dad probably has JBL speakers or has had them. That's kind of gone now. Like, the last decade showed us manufacturers and companies that not everyone was familiar with. Like, I knew of RCF in the late 90s. The ART 312A, I'd heard it. I thought it was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you go down, I remember the famous Brian, the 312. What did I say?
Well, 312A was the active version. That was the one that...
Right. That was the one, the first time I heard, like, RCF on that level.
Yeah, the passive one, yeah.
You look back on, what was it, Sonic, Brian, that used to use RCF?
They're right down the road from me.
Yeah, Sonic in Wisconsin. Yeah.
Sonic is like a mile away on my street.
Yeah, and they used RCF drivers. That's the difference. Today, you couldn't find a DJ to save your life that knows what the drivers are in their speaker, nor could you find one that cares. John, I watched a DJ do a video in his driveway in the snow with a cigarette hanging out.
Yeah, I've seen that video. That guy's an asshole.
Changing the driver in a JBL speaker to upgrade. I remember having PV speakers and upgrading to Black Widows, which added about 1 million watts of sound and about
1.21 gigawatts of sound.
Literally, and they became like the heaviest thing you could pick up. But that's gone. Nobody knows what's in the Evolve 50. Nobody knows what's in this speaker or that speaker.
Doesn't matter as long as it works, you know?
But that's the difference, Brian. That's my point. The new gen of DJs are like, this is cool. It comes in white. I worked with Mike. And by the way, this is completely unsolicited. Mike is one of the nicest guys in our industry. He figured it out long ago. Shake hands, kiss babies, get in there, talk to mobile DJs and see what they want. And I worked with his system a couple weeks ago at the DJ Collective.
Which system?
the Evolve 50.
Oh, finally, huh?
I've never worked with one.
Okay.
I was amazed.
Yeah.
This little thing, we did a party that night for about 150 people. He had 4 of them set up. They sounded amazing.
Yeah, see, here's how it works, Jay. If I tell you something's cool, it generally is. I'm not like some of those other guys who tell you things are cool just because they...
No.
I don't know, for whatever reason. I was serious when I said it was a cool piece.
Tip of the hat to you from years ago. But the thing is this. People are not, like, I question, what's the influence? Like back in the day, everyone bought the Mackeys because that's what everyone bought.
Yep.
It wasn't because they were great speakers. It was...
they were for a second. They were for a second.
Right. It's not that they were bad. It's just that that's what we had. It's sort of like sneakers. You used to wear Converse or Jack Purcell or this Adidas, and then Nike showed up. Now it's like, who knows what you're wearing and why, and it's so expensive and blah, blah, blah. Like, our industry has sort of gone down that trend road of, hey, I got this, or I got that, or I bought this. But there's still a consistency of facade, 2 totems, 2 moving heads that are white, 2 line array, like a line array. Think about it. The last decade gave mobile DJs line arrays. As much as maybe the industry didn't listen, look how well we were treated on that front. So I completely agree with you on the speaker issue.
Well, Bose has been around for a long time, but
But I agree with both of what you said. That was made for the single guitar player doing some John Mayer, Jason Mraz in a coffee shop, not too loud, no highs, no lows. It must be Bose. That's
John and I had Mike Dussault on the show. What was it, about 3 years ago?
Love Mike.
Yeah,
we had Mike on the show, and it was when the Evolve 50 was being announced. In fact, I think it was right before it was announced. He came on with some teaser pictures and such. I had one because I was doing an early product demo of it. But I said, or maybe John said, I don't remember who, we suggested, hey, look, it's not like you're the first to ever make a line array. You've got Bose, you've got
just made it better.
FBT, you've got all these companies who have done it. And he smiled and he looked right at the camera and he said, pioneers get arrows.
Oh, he did that one?
Whoa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and let them invent the wheel. I'll make it
get
right.
knocked out. What is it? Pioneers get arrows and settlers get crops or something?
There's something like that.
It's something like that. And it's more or less like, if you run to the front, you get knocked down. It's the people behind that walk slowly.
Right. It's like the front line at those, whenever they show that beachhead shot for the invasion of Normandy, all the tank door opens or whatever, and all the guys in the front get shot, and the guys in the back actually get on the beach. Yeah.
Well,
so, I don't know. I thought it was funny.
Well, you know what? And it's a system that
what happened at Normandy. Don't misquote me on that.
Yeah, I'm like,
I can see that bite me in the ass when I run for office in 20 years.
Yeah.
He said it was funny what happened in Normandy. No, I didn't.
This will be on CNN in about 12 years.
Right.
Brian walking around Milwaukee, vote for me. No. Seriously. I think that aspect is taking care of it. I think lighting has joined the new gen. I mean, did you think you could buy? I remember buying the American DJ like scanner 150s. I think I paid $500 a piece.
There was the lasers in them?
No laser in them.
Oh, that was a DJ scanner.
They were like small. They were before the pocket scans.
Yeah.
And I remember showing them at a party and people just going, whoa, this is like a full-on nightclub. I'm like, yes, it is. Look at the lights we have. Mm-hmm. And I had 2 of them. Now it's like, what, you don't have moving heads? Are you kidding? But it brings me back to what we said off air. We're DJs. Why aren't we talking about the next song or the music or what we do? I don't give me the best system in the world.
No.
If I suck as a DJ...
Well, I think it wraps back into what I was saying initially, where there's not really a lot of things made for us specifically. There are some things, speakers. The other thing, and I won't dwell on this, but I think there is some lighting out there that has hit the mark. It's doing what I needed to do. It's easy to control. It's intuitive, easy to set up. I won't even mention names, but I'm using it. And I like it. they're doing well.
I'm like, does it have 3 letters in the name?
But as a whole, well, they all have 3 letters in the name. But as a whole, you know, I think the reason we talk about equipment so much is because there are questions. If it was so cut and dry that you could just go, oh, everybody has this, 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 and this, and then you just create some kind of decoration around it where it looks different, there wouldn't be a lot of talk about this. But because it's so hard to sift through, you know, somewhere between the consumer electronic stuff and the professional install stuff to find that sweet spot, that's why we talk about it so much.
Or Brian,
well, let me ask you about this.
Okay.
Well, hold on. John had a thought, and I feel sorry for him.
Well, I'm wondering if the reason why we don't talk about music as much is because our music is almost more of a personal representation of ourselves. That my music and my style of music is me, and I don't want someone else telling me that I'm doing my music wrong, or I'm not playing the right songs, or I should be doing some other things. If we hold that's so valid. Personal compared to speakers, I was just thinking as you guys were talking, I bet more of us could agree that the Evolve 50s are a great speaker than we could agree that Celebration is the song to kick off a night with, or whatever. I wonder if that's it. It's just that because of music we take that personally because of that judgment.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I'm a member. Yeah, I'm a member of, or I was. I left the groups because they were just annoying to me. Because people would sign me up for these like YouTube vinyl community and I don't know, record groups, people who are record collectors and crate diggers, you know, on Facebook. And so I'd see this stuff constantly in my feed. And it would be things like Arlo Guthrie and some Elton John album or whatever that they were getting. And then I would say, hey, look at this really cool, you know, Maurice This Is Acid freaking single I got. Everybody looked at me like I was from outer space. And then they wanted to show me, you know, that they found Boston's second album on a crate dig, and everybody just, you know, there was 1,000 likes on that. But mine was like, what is that? No, go away. Go away. We found a Barbra Streisand album. So there's a degree of that where it's just very polarizing with music.
Oh, and I agree with both of you, but I still think it's at the core of what a DJ is and what a DJ does.
Certainly.
It
should be.
No, I was fortunate. I was in San Francisco 2 days ago to witness the Red Bull Freestyle USA National Finals. And they had 6 DJs compete, and it's freestyle, meaning it's scratching, it's mixing, it's performing, it's enticing the crowd. And the DJ that won, this DJ Lazy Boy, who I've worked with a couple times, who's not only amazing, but has an incredible backstory, suffering from cancer and this and that. Young guy, but just as far as being a DJ, I got to rewatch his set today on YouTube. And I got to be honest, there's probably 7 breaks of tracks he's doing together that I am not only going to copy and steal, but I'm going to introduce at weddings, because it's like, whoa. And it's that education of music that I'm kind of talking about, John. Not, hey, I like to play this. It's more of, hey, have you tried? I'll give one. You want to try something at a wedding sometime, or any event where you have urban and country? Try this. Turn Down for What by Little John, and then mix it in by looping the beginning of Luke Bryan, Country Girls Shake That For Me. They work. You match the BPMs, and they actually work together. It's amazing. And when I do it at weddings, people go ballistic because it becomes that he's a DJ. He's mixing tracks that he shouldn't be mixing. Going back to the equipment, let me ask you both this question. I have a little affiliation, some people may realize, with a certain manufacturer.
Right.
That's why I got scared when you said Pioneers get arrows, because I immediately went like, wait a second.
Yeah, because when Mike initially said it, I'm like, why are you talking about Pioneer? They're not making an array.
I'm afraid of it.
Yeah.
But let me ask you both, and I will stay silent, as hard as that might be to believe.
Yeah, I'll hold my breath.
Yeah.
What piece of equipment are you missing that the industry isn't manufacturing?
Before I answer that question, I was going to respond to something else, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was, because you've said so much stuff.
Yeah. And
I've tried to follow you that I can't like retain that. I don't have a filing system in my brain like that to even. So what was your question?
What piece
of equipment do I wish I had that I don't have?
Because
it doesn't exist?
That doesn't exist. That you feel should exist.
There's a couple things. I think that just a simple mixing board or MIDI controller without a lot of bells and whistles on it, but with the mobile DJ in mind, with the microphone inputs that I need would be nice, so I don't have to add equipment to it. I also think it would be super slick. And again, I'm not asking anybody to reinvent the wheel. This is all applied science. And I've talked about this before. If there was a company that, just for instance, and I know there are companies out there like this, that make not only a controller or a mixing board, but they also make speakers. If they would come up with a wireless technology that was proprietary to their stuff. So Pioneer, for instance, if they said, you know what, we're going to have Pioneer Fly, and it's going to be something that's going to connect your speaker to your controller wirelessly within 100 feet. And you're going to be able to pair your mixing board to your speakers, or maybe even 3 speakers for a monitor, or 4 or 8 or whatever you want to do. There's nothing to add. It's just proprietary in this piece. Kind of like how, ADJ did Wi-Fi on some other things. Kind of like that. I think that would be slick, and it doesn't really exist. You have to add things, and then you have to put batteries in them and plug them in. It'd be cool if it was all... Anything that saved me steps is a good thing. I think that would be nice. I really do.
And that's exactly where I was going to go, Brian, is having that wireless audio capability where it's reliable, it's consistent, and I can have 2, I can have 4. Because in many of the shows I did this particular year, I was covering a wide area outside, and having wireless audio going 150 feet both directions would have been absolutely fabulous without having to bring extra gear.
Yeah.
So that, as I spent some time looking at a Bluetooth speaker that one of the companies was putting out, and it's like, oh, I can Bluetooth to the first one, which is okay, and then maybe I could how would I go to the second one? Well,
you can't do that.
You can't do that.
Well, and even if you can, you've got a delay on the current version of Bluetooth that most of us are using. But I'll tell the story, and I'll just say it. I had a friend from Chicago come over. It was about a year and a half ago, because he was struggling with the Airstream DMX bridge. He didn't understand how to program it. And he wanted me to program some light shows for him. So he came over. The guy brought 18 ADJ element parts. He had 18 of them, okay? They're like $300 a piece, or over $300 a piece. In fact, they were element hex parts. They were the really good ones. So battery powered, hex LED, Wi-Fi, not only Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi with the extended range, the EXR, which goes like 2,500 feet. He had 18 of these things. He had an Airstream DMX bridge. He had a brand new iPad. So think of the money that he had there wrapped up into the system, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And he had 4 Chauvet moving heads. You know why he had 4 Chauvet moving heads? Because ADJ did not give him a reason to buy a moving head, because none of the ADJ moving heads at the time, at some kind of something between cheap and super uber huge expensive install price point stuff, nothing had Wi-Fi built into it. ADJ forgot to do it. So they didn't give Chauvet a reason to even buy one of their moving, or they didn't give ADJ a reason to buy one of their moving heads. So they just bought Chauvet because it costs less money. They saved a couple bucks, all things being the same. If there was an ADJ moving head out there that had that Wi-Fi technology built into it, and it was $300 more, I guarantee this guy would have bought 4 of them. He might have even bought 8. So yes. I think those are the kind of things, talking about this wireless thing that's proprietary, like Pioneer could do it because they do speakers and they do mixing boards. So I could buy a Pioneer mixing board or a Pioneer controller, but I don't really have a reason to buy Pioneer speakers.
Right.
I mean, they make a nice speaker, but there are things out there that I feel like work better for me. However, if Pioneer told me, okay, before you pass on our speakers, do you realize that you can wirelessly connect our mixing boards with our speakers? Really? Wow, I guess I have to buy Pioneer speakers. It's little stupid things like that. Little things.
Yeah, but I have to ask, would you, and this is where I've, in in the scheme of it all, this is where I've kind of split. I think it'd be cool to have satellite speakers, but I personally wouldn't trust main speakers to anything but a cable.
You know, I said that about a microphone 10 years ago.
I know you did. And that's why I think it's poignant that you and I are talking, because I can guarantee I've never had a mic drop out with a wire, but I've had a mic drop out with a wireless.
I remember.
That's why I think main should be wired, and then maybe a wireless signal from a main to a satellite. But then you have to compensate for delay.
I can't tell you exactly when it was, but it was pre 9/11. And it was. I'm sure it was 2000.
You know, most people watching this weren't born, but I'm just going to say that.
So this was. I was a single guy. You know, I kind of remember about when that was. So it was pre 9/11. I went over to a friend of mine's house. Guy I know very well. Still very good friends with him. Him and his wife. His wife and I have known each other since we were teenagers.
I know who you're talking about.
And he's an engineer. And we're talking about MP3 because it's a relatively new thing at the time. We have Napster, we're downloading things. And he said, you know, someday a DJ will just have a computer. They won't even have to worry about CDs anymore. I said, no, that'll never happen. That's science fiction. That won't work. I wouldn't rely on my computer to do a wedding. It's not stable enough. It's not fast enough. I can't put enough music in it. There's so many things about this computer where this will never, ever happen. And he laughed at me, and rightly so.
Well, and it's, by the way, a shout out to a friend of all of ours. I have a 1999 Mobile Beat magazine, and there's an article by Drax about MP3s, and he talks exactly about that.
Yeah.
Saying that we will go to computers. And he was using, do you guys remember the lunchbox?
The DJ Power.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Good memory, John.
Yeah.
He was using that, and it's like, I tell you, when people say, are there any regrets as a DJ? Yeah, my regret, I didn't get onto a laptop before 2011.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I remember slogging it out with CDs going, oh, you want it, Sweet Home Alabama? Hold on, that's on the same CD as Megadeth and Frank Sinatra, and I found it. Put it in.
Arlo Guthrie, again.
Yeah. I like Arlo Guthrie. Don't slag on that guy.
No, I think Arlo Guthrie should be like the key, the word of the day kind of thing, you know. Arlo Guthrie, dial 1-800.
Yeah.
Fourth
or buy Ben & Jerry's from Vermont or something.
So speaking of wireless stuff, I mean, Mikey Mike points out in the chat that
Mikey Mike is here.
Yeah, Mikey's with us tonight out on Facebook.
Mikey, what's up, brother?
Thanks for joining us, Mikey. But he points
out
Mikey
to get back on YouTube.
Yeah, he's been like gone. I was wondering if
he's like building rockets or something.
Something important, you know,
like a rocket scientist DJ or something on the side.
Yeah, he's a virgin now.
But he mentions that. You know, we can have a drone flying miles away, transmitting HD video back to us, and do it reliably. And here we're sitting here worried about getting audio 10 feet to our main sound system.
Exactly, and that's why I'm talking about applied science. The science is there. No, you might not be able to do it with Bluetooth, but maybe that's not the science you should be using. So I'm not asking anybody to invent a new wireless system. I'm asking them to incorporate a wireless system that already exists, that's reliable and stable, and use it for this platform. So Mikey's right, 100%.
And you know what? I'll go so far as to say, if that's the case, then even I would get off I won't use it for mains, if it was that good. But I get in the car, and I take my iPhone, and I put it down next to me, and 2 feet in front of it is a stereo that suddenly says Bluetooth signal lost. So, you know, I have to get out of the car. But it's Bluetooth.
I mean, that's
it. But that's the whole wireless streaming. I have to get out of the car and shake my cane at the clouds and get all upset.
Well, Howie Darkstar will tell you that there, and he knows more about this than I do, and others in this. Mikey, I'm sure, knows all about it. But there are different versions of Bluetooth. The ones that are, you know, we're pretty much using are like a low life form as far as Bluetooth goes. The next step or two up is really good, like really good. But like the Bluetooth stereo in my car, which Pioneer makes, I bought it in 2008. It's still on my car.
Yeah, it's old
technology. In my truck. It's a little slow. Now I have a really inexpensive retro sound stereo that looks just like a 65 Mustang AM radio in the Mustang, and when I turn the car on, as soon as that radio fires up, it immediately connects to my phone. And it plays Yacht Rock Radio off of Sirius XM because that's what I told it to do. I'm not even kidding. It does. But there's no wait. When I turn my truck on, I got to wait 3 minutes for my phone to connect.
You know what? I just looked at the comments, and Brian K. made a comment that I want to kind of open up real quick. And I think I told this story last time we did the show, and if I didn't, I'll tell it real quick. About a year and a half ago, I was at a wedding venue where there's, 20 weddings going on all at once. And one of the rooms is very white wall and very tall ceilings. And the lighting in it was amazing. And I'm like, I'm breaking down, and I walked by it 3 times, and I can't figure out what lights these are. They must be some weird moving heads. I finally finished breaking down, and I come back around to the room, and I kind of sneak in the back. And I look at the DJ, and I look behind him. He has about a 12-foot T-bar up. He's got 2 Vertigos and a Mystic. And it looked amazing because I hadn't seen those lights in years. Brian K. mentions, I like the look of old speaker boxes, not the arrays. Here's a quick question. Is there a steampunk DJ moment where you say, let's go back? And I point to that it probably will happen because vinyl at weddings has come back big. I think I told you about the DJ Tone thing.
Yeah.
During Cocktail, he has crates where guests play the records.
It's interesting.
Are we going down that road? If I suddenly show up with 2 Vertigos, are people going to go, wow, I'm 25. I've never seen this.
All that stuff is available. ADG makes that stuff, and it makes it an LED. In fact, I have this stuff. And another thing that is available, remember I don't know if you ever used them or not. John remembers them. People used to make homemade light boxes.
Oh, yeah.
Like a wooden box.
Yes,
it was like a traffic light inside there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
ADJ makes a retro version of that. Nobody's buying it. So I don't know that that's a thing,
Utah
they discontinued it, I'm sure, but I can show it to you because I have one back there.
No, Utah Saints, 2009, Something Good, the remix where the guy does the Running Man. They've got those. The DJ has 2 of the stoplights, 1 on either side of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
it's that throwback thing.
They were available. Nobody cared. And what that brings up an interesting point as well, where when it comes to equipment, somebody in one of the comment sections in one of my videos today had said something about everybody has them. I have the Pro Event table. When I first got it, I thought it was really cool. I did some customizations on it, but now, everybody has one, and it's not as cool as it was.
Right.
Now, I feel the same way about tattoos, which I don't have any tattoos. I've never gotten them. And at one time I was considering one, maybe when I was in my 20s, but I'm glad I didn't get one because not everybody has one and it's not weird. I have nieces and nephews with tattoos. So to me, they're kids. How cool am I if I have anything on my body? What would I choose? I'm stuck with it. I'm glad I didn't get any. I'm more estranged that I live in Bayview, Milwaukee without a tattoo than if I had tattoos. but yeah, I get it. You don't want to look like everybody else. But I want to take that a step further and say, on social media, we are looking at all these other DJ setups all the time. And we're getting ideas, or we're critiquing them, or we're saying, oh, they still use one of those, or whatever the case might be. We're exposed to it. We're paying attention. We're looking at it all the time. Videos, pictures on Facebook, pictures on Twitter, Instagram, or not Twitter, but Instagram. But here's the thing, and I know I sound like Jay here, and I'm trying to morph into Jay.
Is that a bad thing?
Yeah, it kind of sucks.
This is becoming
My point I'm trying to make is, I understand that some of these DJs don't like it that other DJs have something that they have, but what I don't think they realize is that most of, and I'm talking about the big majority of everybody they're playing in front of, has never seen any of this stuff before anyway.
Right.
Yep.
Even if it's 10-year-old equipment, they've never seen it. And if they have, it hasn't locked in their head. They're not going to look at you and say, oh, he has the same table every other DJ has. They don't care. What do they care? Rock the party or not?
But so you're proving my point. You're going back to the music.
Well, yeah. What I'm suggesting is
back to
Brian
us.
likes to look. Brian likes to look at the old school speakers. That's Brian's preference. Is
Right.
that his audience's preference? Does his audience give a shit? Is my question. I know Brian likes it, but does anybody else care besides Brian? It's important that Brian's happy, but ultimately, does it matter if he's happy or not as far as the satisfaction of the crowd goes?
I think they do.
You know what? It starts to become a fashion statement. You know, you wear a t-shirt and jeans and certain sneakers, whereas I might wear a different shirt and different jeans and different sneakers because I think this look is good. I think it's DJs have become so middle of the road with, hey, check it out. I saw a DJ. What did he have? 2 totems, 4 movers, a line array, and a facade. That's a million different DJs that we know. So the point becomes at the core of what we do, it's not about the appearance, but if you are happy with the appearance, that's ultimately what makes you do the job you do.
Maybe. John, you were saying?
I was going to say I think continuing on that, does the client care? Does it matter to the client? It extends to the desire for, we need more subwoofers. We need, more power in our bass. The Evolve 50, that's probably the quickest question that pops up is, well, how does the bass sound? Or can I add another sub to it? Even before people have listened to it or purchased it. Can I add another sub to it? Does the client care? Do they want more bass? Do they feel that you're not providing enough bass for their wedding?
They may enjoy it, but what I think it is even more telling, where it's really more about what the DJ thinks than the crowd thinks, is things like over-the-top cable management, where everything has to be perfect. And if one little cable's showing, it's a fail. And I'm asking myself, have these DJs ever gone to a wedding where there was a band and seen what this looks like?
No, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's chaos. And you're complaining because there's an orange extension cable?
No.
I mean, yeah, you shouldn't have one, but if you do, is it really the end of the world? No.
But I'll go to what John said. I rented a brand new Ram 1500 truck.
You've told the story, by the way.
I'm not telling it again.
I'm just checking.
No, and I appreciate that, but it's still prevalent on what he said, because if a car has an amazing stereo system with a lot of bass, that's an expectation that I think we as DJs need to consider meeting. If
Maybe, because I think that there might be a certain expectation that people have of mobile DJs in the first place.
Well, they think
it may not be the same experience they have in the truck. It's nice if you can provide it, but I don't know that they're particularly expecting us to sound as well as the stereo in the truck you're talking about.
But I think they're
surprised.
If they get in the truck later and find out the stereo there sounds amazing with a lot of deep bass, do we have to fill that expectation beforehand?
Well, in the truck, you're by yourself. You're cranking it up, and you're not trying to have a conversation with anybody else. So I think we've talked about that. We need to provide a different quality of sound than what's going on in the truck. It may not have the same bass the truck has, but it has properties that are not going to cause anyone any physical discomfort.
Right.
And
well, you're a great example, as is Christian, DJ Pulse, of being audiophiles that are so well, I won't say read, but experienced in great sound. I look to the both of you as sources of information when I make choices.
We can hear, and when it hurts, we say so. That's about it.
But
we don't want
I also live and die by when someone says, I have an event coming up this weekend on Sunday. I have 200 people. I'm using 2 10-inch tops and a 15-inch sub. And on the surface, you say, that's not enough sound. They need to hear one speech. They need to hear background. And then for dancing, it's right in front of me in a 10 by 10 area.
Yeah.
So guess what? I have more than enough sound.
You have too much. You're sending your bass into the back of the room. Yeah.
Right. But that's where volume knobs and trim and gain come into play as a DJ. So where's that end of education as we move forward? When people are buying 2 Evolves going, can I add another sub? And that was the big thing with the Bose. Everyone I knew that had Bose had 4 subs, 2 sticks.
Yeah, but they were 8-inch subs.
Well, that's it. So they understood what they were doing. but they also understood symmetry. I've had DJs say to me, I'm like, oh, why did you get 2 of those? Symmetry.
Right.
Symmetry. Yeah. Like, are you kidding?
Because it looks right, not because it sounds right. It just looks right.
No, it looks the part.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily sound the part.
We should be able to walk into a room at any time, anywhere. I don't care Des Moines. I don't care San Diego. I don't care LA. I don't care Milwaukee. And look at a crowd and immediately go, this is what I'm going to play. You want to do a DJ competition? This is the competition.
You know why I don't think symmetry is important? You know why? And
I know why.
You're going to laugh at me. No, it's not what you think.
Oh, okay.
Laugh at me. The reason I don't think symmetry is important is because one of the most iconic images of all time, the symmetry's off on it, yet people love it. And that's the Star Wars Millennium Falcon, because the cockpit's off to one side. And that's such an iconic thing, and that's almost cool. That's almost cooler than symmetrical. I used to like skylines that kind of were, tall in the middle and kind of look like somebody flipping a middle finger, Yep. But now I appreciate skylines that are kind of all over the place. It makes it more interesting. And I don't know. So I don't think it's as important as people think it is. And case in point, the Millennium Falcon is iconic. People love it. They love the image. If they changed it to something else, there'd be an outrage within that community.
Right.
So,
but that's cool based on it being cool. That's the same as me saying James Dean in the iconic cigarette Barracuda jacket with the collar up, jeans, and a T-shirt is still cool.
Speaking of,
no labels.
We have to wrap the show because I need a cigarette and I can't smoke while we're broadcasting because the room will lose their shit. We got to let John wrap this.
What about this thing? No? These rules need to be told to me early on.
Let's just completely break them. I'm just going to light up so John will close. I don't care anymore.
Let's see. Did we talk about 2019?
Told you it was going to be a short conversation, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a great year, John.
Yeah, it's a good.
It's all about pricing and new DJs that are influencing the market, whether they deserved it or not. It's about how many trust totems do you have? I've got better moving heads.
How many piercings you
I'm
have?
1,800 weddings a day. I charge $3,000, even though I'm new. You should listen to me because I'm a shill for the industry. I keep changing my gear because they keep paying me to. I monetize 75 ads in a 6-minute video.
Keep going, Jay.
Yeah, go ahead. You're pretty much...
Don't stop now. Just take this time and go.
You're describing my channel. Quit it.
Add in 4, 3, 2.
There we go.
I love that.
Well, gang, we're going to wrap things up for tonight. Thank you for being with us on all the channels. We had some great chats going on both Facebook and YouTube back and forth here. So thank you much for being with that. Next week, we're going to have just a little bit of a show. And then I think we are at Christmas Eve.
We're at Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we are. And that's also my daughter's birthday.
Yeah, so we've got... So next Tuesday we should be wrapping up. We'll be wrapping up 2019. I think.
Jay, do you want to come on with us next Tuesday?
Sure.
Yeah, let's plan for next Tuesday to do another 10 topics.
Okay.
I like it.
We're gonna do
that works for me.
We're gonna do another 10 topics, time 10 topics again, and let the guys rant and riff about that. So
one of the topics should be like tracks to play at the crack of midnight.
Ooh.
If you're doing a New Year's Eve gig.
Oh, we could set up some situational music. I could set up some music situations and let you guys.
I like that idea. Come up with some, but don't tell me what they are.
Oh, I can't tell.
I would be surprised too.
Yeah, I can't do that. Okay, so next week we're gonna do 10 topics, all based around Huey Lewis songs. But it'll be a great.
Is there ever a wrong time to play Huey Lewis?
For New Year's Eve, I would start with "If This Is It" by Huey Lewis.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, you play that right before, midnight.
Yeah, that'd be my midnight track. Then "Power of Love."
CJ just won the internet for the night, so thank you, Liz. Once again, thank you guys for being with us. We will catch you next week with our shows as we're getting ready for the end of the year. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.